Hello, my name is Joanne and I live in Carlsbad, California. And I went to a police community meeting that was in response to a murder that was committed a mile down the road from me. It was, what it involved was two transients lived in an encampment by the lagoon, and they murdered somebody. They broke into somebody's houses. They broke into multiple people's houses, allegedly, and then murdered this woman. So they stole her car, and anyway, they were picked up the next day, thank goodness, for an alert citizen who found them going right back to the scene. So also 5 months ago, there was a John Roth, I believe, John something, in Oceanside. John Roth was murdered in exact same way, more or less. I mean, it was a transient as well. John was a veteran. He lived in Oceanside. The transient broke into the house, stabbed him. John didn't make it. So anyway, police in Carlsbad had a meeting on March 20th, 2019, and it went on for a very long time. So I'm going to try to summarize it, but I'm also throwing in my commentary. And so a lot of this is only my personal opinion. I don't represent anybody other than myself. So I'm hoping this might be helpful to somebody that wants a summary, or maybe understand what actions at least one citizen believes should occur. So that being the background, I'm just going to go through all the questions that were asked. Now, I'm not going to go over some questions that the cops couldn't answer, the police couldn't answer. Although I actually am going to go over some of them, because I didn't write down every question if they were being overly repetitive. So here we go. The first question was, Kelly School was not alerted to this issue. Why not? And they said that they didn't know the suspects were in the area. Next question, and again, I'm going to skip over some of them that were kind of like, well, we can't answer that question. All right. Next question was, there's no alerts sent out to the public in a timely manner. And the media said that we are on all social media. So my take on that is we need better alerts and emails from the city, mostly from the police, on crime and also for fires. We always have to go to other places to find out what's going on Nextdoor, and it becomes this, like, you know, that telephone thing where one person says something to another, and then by the time it gets to you, the story is so different than what's really going on. So anyway, Chief said that they're on all social media. So my thinking on the action items for the chief is, well, if you're on all of these social medias, then use those social media accounts to give to communicate the content that the people want to hear. Okay, next question. This was at minute 2:43. So someone asked about spot crime report and crime mapping. Is there criteria about what gets reported, or are all issues reported on these sites? And he said there's things that are reported that may not show up if it doesn't get classified as a crime. So that's fair. Next question at minute 5:40 was, it has to do with laws that are needed. And Jenny Murphy said, what can we do to help the police change more laws, have more tools basically to change the laws? And he said that there's codes at the state level that he has to abide by, and basically go to city council. And the city council, Carlsbad City Council, is looking to be active at the state level. Apparently, they've hired a lobbyist, which is interesting. So he suggested to contact City Hall with your concerns. And I keep reading all over the internet about some cities having their own codes and their own laws that do in fact conflict with the state. And in my opinion, what action is needed is we need laws on how we want enforcement to work at our city level. And if it conflicts with the state, so be it. And if the police can't do a conflict, okay, but at least we have it on record that this is how the city wants to operate. And I think, and I would be interested in the city attorney's opinion on if there's any wiggle room. I don't know if it's just so black and white that we can't ever have any discrepancy whatsoever. Maybe that's true, I don't know. Then at minute 7:33, there's a question on panhandling. Oh, that was me that asked that. And I asked, what's our enforcement of panhandling? At first, Chief said that he doesn't enforce panhandling. And then he said there's no law on panhandling, but I'm pretty sure we have an ordinance against panhandling. At least when I called panhandling in the past, that's what I was told. So I can only go by what the dispatcher said. And also somebody said that we believe you can't, this person said you can't, and I just agree, that you can't aggressively panhandle. So bottom line is, what action should we take as a city? And I believe we need action to get a panhandling law, even if it conflicts with the state. And then if the police can't enforce it, it's back to on record that the city does not want panhandling. And we also need signs. Don't feed the panhandlers type signs. Don't give them anything. Don't enable these panhandlers. So this is something City Hall can do, is put up signs on their own property. Okay, so then the next question was on 8 minutes and 30 seconds. It's general info. Someone wanted the name of the victim. The victim's name is Marjorie Gawitt. And also, so that happened. So Marjorie was 10 days ago or so. And also 5 months ago, similar crime that we should, in his honor, fight for was John Roth. So I already mentioned him earlier. Okay, next question. Are we able to background check the homeless? So are the police, when they arrive, and they said no. And they went on for they said, you have to have a reason. Okay, but honestly, we need to know who's in our community. Obviously, we need to know if they have a criminal record. So don't know how to go about that. Hopefully some creative people can figure that one out. All right, Cindy V said, Jody's our spokesperson for the police. Jody mentioned permanent supportive housing. Is Carlsbad involved with that? And it says housing is coordinated through the city's permanent response plan, which is based out of the Housing and Neighborhood Services in City Hall. My response to all that is there needs to be somewhere to take all these people, regardless of what the situation is. So some are in legitimate need and need help. So we need to provide them the adequate help. And if they have mental illness, then they need to go to some place that treats mental illness. And if they have a drug problem, they need to be checked in to some place that treats drug problems. And if they are just trying to hang out, I don't know. Maybe that should be like a vagrancy law, and perhaps that needs to go somewhere for that. So everybody needs a place to go and not just camp, because that has caused really big fires also. I'm not sure where the fires have been caused. I'm not sure about in our city, but lots of problems with people just hanging out illegally. All right, at minute 12:03, Cindy V says, Jody mentioned permanent supportive housing. Is Carlsbad involved with that? She's involved in showers of blessing. Okay, so I think I just already did that one. Sorry. At minute 16 is someone wants to know how is the home accessed, and Chief said can't answer that at this time. Not sure why this question needs to be so secret as part of the case, but whatever. The public really wants to know that, though they keep repeating it. Next question is at minute 16:46, crime detail. Was the encampment on the trail by Kelly Park? And Kelly is also elementary school. So, or was it directly behind the victim's house? I know why they asked that question, because there was a report, a news article that said that the camp was behind the victim's house. Anyway, apparently it was not directly behind the victim's house. It was closer to where the school was. So perhaps, here's an action item, perhaps there needs to be more extensive and regular patrols within a certain perimeter of schools, since that encampment of the murderers had been there for a while. I don't know how long. Okay, and then someone next asked again if Kelly School is notified, and the answer is no, and so we already addressed that. And then at minute 19, a homeless response process. Why does it take 2 days to respond to a homeless encampment call in? And then once you do respond, you give them 3 days notice. So in other words, they have 5 days, up to 5 days. And the answer was we work Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday is basically encampment response day, and they can't be liable for removing someone's property, which is why they give them 3 days notice. I know if I put a sign up for a garage sale, that sign is sometimes removed within hours. So they took my property and did not give me any notice. So I don't know. They are taking people's property otherwise, but they won't take the encampment. Also, what I want to, this is just, first of all, let's talk about the turnaround time. That's ridiculous, 5 days. I mean, we should set our response time quality metrics at the city hall level, and then have them communicated over to our police about what kind of turnaround time do we expect, and then what do we expect once it gets there. So I know that LA, for instance, now I don't know how much time LA gives their homeless, but they do come in and scoop up their excess stuff. I don't know if it's all their stuff, but at least the excess stuff, they give them a limit, like you can have 2 bags. And then they put all of a homeless person's stuff in a warehouse for some period of time. It's like 30 or 60 days, all labeled and such. So we need that. Just get that stuff removed. Put it somewhere where they can get it back within a certain amount of time. And anyway, it's something, it's a best practice that we can learn from. So another question, minute 20, about the homeless response process. What must be done to make this a 7-day operation? And they said we have limited resources. 3 years ago, we didn't even have a homeless response. Now, you have to go to city council is what they said to get something more. First of all, can I just say, before we throw more money at anything, let's make sure we have adequate process. Because I don't feel like we have adequate process right now. I don't think throwing more money at HOT gets us better outcomes. Because here's what happens. They just go out and say, talk to these folks. And if it's illegal campers, if they're not actively waving a gun or actively shooting up some drugs, because they do talk to the people about picking up their needles. So I don't know why they don't just arrest them there if they've got needles in their possession. But anyway, they just give them sharp containers is what they said in the meeting. So anyway, they go and talk to them, have this friendly conversation, give them a 3-day warning. And so, then the people pick up their stuff, or the cops come back in, should call them the police, I suppose, and they clean up the mess. And then anyway, so before, what happens then is they come back after they were kicked out. Then, they let a little period go by, and then they just come back and set up a camp again, and it all repeats itself. So also, some people said in the meeting that they've called it in, and it's definitely been longer than 5 days, by the way. So in summary, I believe that we first, before we make this a 7-day operation, we need good processes. We need to say, hey, is our HOT operations, are they homeless operations? I don't know what HOT stands for. It stands for some sort of homeless operations for Carlsbad. Anyway, is it effective? Let's make it effective first, then give them more money. Okay. And more, which means more time, more resources, 7-day operation. So there are so many, the next person said at minute 21, so there's so many wants versus needs in Carlsbad at the city hall level. Carlsbad needs to devote more resources to mental illness and officers funding for 7-day operations. How do we get those resources? And they said, reach out to City Hall. So definitely agree with that, and would suggest, can somebody please go one-on-one with the council to get prioritization, meaning wants versus needs categorized. I mean, it doesn't have to be just one person. Everyone should even pick an issue and hammer it hard. Make sure it's a wants versus need, and then make sure it's adequate, it's driven to completion, it's got controls in place to make sure it doesn't get out of whack over time. Okay, next question is 2338 on crime statistics. So Jim Watson asked how many crimes are committed by transients. There's a trend. And he gets into explaining the trend. And the trend, by the way, he cited was on murders, so this is no small thing. So Chief says we don't have a box on our form to report crimes done by the homeless. And so I'm thinking, get a box. We need to ask council, city hall, to ask that crimes be categorized to give us data on all crimes. By the way, they could get that information because according to Alonzo, who's the lead for HOT, he said or was it him or the other guy? One of them said that they ask for everybody's, they do get IDs eventually, and they do know who these people are. So if they commit a crime, they do have it associated. But anyway, even so, moving forward, we should have a box to say, is this a crime committed by homeless? I want to know these statistics. This person asked the statistics. Jim was basically told, no, we're not going to do it. I mean, that's the way I took it. So let's ask that they do categorize it. And not only just categorize it, but they should communicate statistics more regularly. I want to know on a monthly basis, what are the statistics and how are they trending? So this should be communicated to all the social media accounts. Okay, that's my opinion. Let's see, at minute 25, Jeannie Chapman talked about there's drug dealers in Bressy Ranch and how she didn't get good response from the cops, the police, and sorry about that, I shouldn't. And but what happened was she eventually contacted Priya from City Hall, and the councilwoman got things done 3 days later. So what I got from this is contact Priya if you're unsatisfied. Way to go, Priya. All right, next question was on minute 29. Crime communications online. How am I doing for time? Crime communications online. We need a place. Someone asked for a place to put this public and make it easily accessible about the crimes committed. Chief said we have every social media available and crime mapping, but I don't feel like that answered her question. She asked for this. If you have all these social medias available, you have Instagram, Facebook. What do you have? I don't know all of the ones. Okay, all of them, he says. Well, then she's saying put the statistics up there because we just don't know what it is. And we don't know where all the crimes are being committed and the details of it. So anyway, I don't feel like her question was answered. I don't feel like this was resolved. And there's just no reason not to post this information. You can't over-communicate this information, especially nowadays with the city. The natives are restless. Okay, at minute 34, someone asked if there's any indication they scoped out their neighborhood. They were actually addressing the audience, not the police. And then it was said, related to that, the point is to call the police. So it was directed at the audience, but I think the police at some point during the evening mentioned that, hey, they encourage you as a neighborhood, as smaller neighborhoods, to start a Facebook neighborhood group so that you can discuss these types of things and to keep tabs of things and to let each other know what's going on. So that sounds like a great suggestion, and hopefully you people will do that. At minute 35 is a homeless response process question. Do we have to wait until our children are hurt before you will do something? The homeless are harassing our children. He said, call us and let us take the action. The translation is people are scared for their children, and they have been for some time, and they finally are getting their voice to speak out. So hopefully they'll continue warming up to getting their voices on and speaking out and get their activism on. Okay. And the follow-up question was, if our children are harassed, will this homeless person, transient, be removed from the city? The chief said, well, if they go to jail, if they did something that would require that. So in other words, I guess no, unless they do something so drastic that they have to go to jail. So there you go. Minute 37, homeless response process question. My son goes to a park equally inhibited by drug users, homeless, and kids. Do I take this up with Park and Recreation? And he said, Chief said, call us if there's an issue. I think he even talked about, like, he will ask them, his team, to hang out at the park if he has to. I'm not sure if that's the kind of a good use of resources. I don't think that's what the guy was asking. I think he wants them cleared out, not just for the police to hang out. But anyway, I think there was some indirect thing that he was saying, something like if someone's using drugs to call them. So at that point, it seems to me that they can be removed. So seriously, this is a big issue in Carlsbad. We have really great parks, and people are using them less and less because of this. Who wants to go into a park bathroom and wonder who's under that stall, and I don't know who touched what. And there's definitely diseases that you can get from these people. So minute 40, someone asked, how can I get a physical barrier approved more than 42 inches high? We need to have City Hall to look at this. Agreed. So the resolution is someone needs to talk to City Hall and try to get that changed. Okay, minute 41:32. This was interesting. At the train tracks are an interesting area for homeless, apparently. There's sheds and people are living in these sheds, and there's people along the tracks just sleeping there. So is there a rail authority? The rail is vulnerable. There's homeless encampments by my house for 2 years. Not my house, this person's house. I see my kids' toys in this camp. When I call the police, does my report automatically get reported to HOT, because it's long after 72 hours that there's a response. Anyway, what's interesting about this is that this is under the sheriff's jurisdiction, but they said to still call them. So it's interesting to know that this is the only action item for a sheriff to take. So if someone needs to pull in the sheriff's office and tell them the problem and the expected outcome, then you have to stay with this issue until closure. Okay, minute 45. Vagrancy and loitering is a topic. I thought we had laws for vagrancy and loitering. Do we? Answer is no. We define loitering as on private property, trespassing. Otherwise, you can't do things like block a sidewalk. And vagrancy is not a legal term for breaking the law. So yeah, we need laws for this immediately. If it conflicts with the state, so what? That may be my ignorance speaking there, but so be it. I think other towns definitely have such laws. Minute 45, 56. Why did they break into this victim's house? And the answer was kind of a weird answer. You didn't get an answer. We got a response, but it wasn't an answer. All we heard back was it's an illogical act. It was an illogical act, and that this police person doesn't want to understand something so horrific, was his words. Okay. All right. I thought the police that answered that was going to say we can't answer that at this time, but he didn't say that. All right. So minute 47. A lady talked about how she owns beach or oceanfront property in Oceanside, and she had some people called out. The police called out to do something about. I didn't write good notes on this one. I'm going to make this up because I can't remember. I think it was something to do with vagrants on her property. And the Oceanside police said they can't arrest due to Proposition 47. So of course I looked up. You should do this too. Look up Proposition 47. Go to Wikipedia to do that, and then look at the the impacts of Prop 47. You will be so pissed off. We need to get that Prop 47 overturned. Kamala Harris, by the way, put that one through. Thank you, Kamala. Anyway, they said I would encourage you to get involved in legislative advocacy because your legislature does listen to you. That was a response to this lady on Prop 47. I guess that's fair. Yeah, let's overturn this piece of garbage. So, okay, minute 49:30. San Diego has 3,800 cameras to follow crime. Maybe we should follow suit. Chief didn't really respond to that, which I think is fine. I don't know what cameras will solve. I mean, we have cameras on the stop lights here to pick up license plates, and the police did tag the stolen car that the murderers had going through a light, but it didn't help anything. And why do I say it didn't help anything? They said it helped them find out what direction they were going in, but no, it didn't help anything, because they found the car because somebody called it in a day later because the car was parked somewhere it shouldn't have been parked. So it's not in this case anyway, in this one case, it really did. If we want to be honest about it, it wasn't effective. Okay, minute 51, 20 seconds. We called this person says, we called Carlsbad Police Department many times and did not receive good service. Are you doing any changes in response to what has happened? So they said, if you're dissatisfied with service, call the chief. We have not identified anything to, oh, yeah, and they said, yeah, on that, the question on, are you doing any changes in response to what happened? They said, we haven't identified anything to change, so no, nothing to change. I'm not clear what the chief's number is, but it would be cool if somebody knows what it is and could give that to everybody, you know, maybe in the comments. Because he said, if you're dissatisfied with service, call him. Okay. We're at minute 54. San Diego recently said that they will allow people to live in their cars. Oh, gosh. Does that impact us at all up here in Carlsbad? I do see people sleeping in their campers and vans in front of my house. And so the response is, it's not illegal to sleep in your car in the state of California. Oh my gosh. Campers and vans are different. You need a permit for an oversized vehicle. It is so if it's an oversized vehicle, you also cannot park on any city streets from 2 to 5 a.m. Do you know, in the Ninth Circuit, they are now considering, which will probably mean it'll totally get passed, allowing RVers and I guess van people to sleep in their cars, because if you only allow car people to sleep in their cars and not RVers or van people, then you're discriminating against the disabled. You know, this is huge. This is huge. Can you just, this is going to change California if the Ninth Circuit passes that, and I think they will. All right. Yeah, so at minute 55:30, why not make the homeless clean up their own mess? Essentially, he said it's not feasible. At minute 57, how did they get from San Marcos to Carlsbad? He said he can't answer. People ask that many times. At minute 58:25, the lady says, I'm armed to the T. Yeah, good. I mean, how else are you supposed to defend yourself? What is California law on shooting an intruder? Basically, you just have to be in fear for your life or someone else's life. And he basically warned, don't be like shooting someone that's running out the door in the back, because that doesn't look good, or it's, I don't know. Okay. I mean, okay, I just want to say, well, you're still in fear for your life. So, all right, watch out. Well, anyway. Okay, minute 59. How is it acceptable that you let the homeless make another camp or go back to their same camp? It's not, they said it's not, but they move back to their spot. We just have to repeat the process. This is unbelievable. So the community will get a map, by the way. The chief did say one good thing that came out of this meeting. Besides, I mean, it was really good that they hosted the meetings. Exceptional. And the one good thing is he did promise somewhere, maybe I haven't got to it yet, that he will provide a map of where these encampments are. Okie dokie. At the 1 hour mark, Patrick Kravitz said, we've heard you. Okay, I like Patrick Kravitz's summary. Okay, we have heard you can stay in your camp 3 days and move back in after it was cleaned up. And then you can sleep in your car. There's no panhandling ordinance, and they can sleep in parks and so on. It doesn't seem to be an unwelcoming environment to be here. And he said, we are bound by the laws of the state. Okay, so obviously we have to go to another venue like City Hall, the sheriff's, for along the train, state representative, ask the City Hall to get their lobbyists up to the state. Any way you can to get things to change. All right. And just a comment that one of the police guys made at the end, he says, we are now encountering 19-year-old the homeless that have made the choice to become homeless in Carlsbad. I mean, he made it sound like there's nothing wrong with these guys. There's no mental illness. There's no drug addiction. They just want to hang out, live on the beach for free. And not about the beach, but in the canyons or wherever they live. And so he says if we arrest them, they're cool with that because that's a bed and a meal. I mean, I say arrest them. Who wants that on their record? So I don't see that. If they did something illegal, then they need to be arrested. And we need to ask our police to arrest them if they've done something illegal. So I don't know. Anyway, at 1 hour, 6 minutes, there's a discussion on when there's a difference in state law and local law. And basically, he repeated, we don't conflict with state law. I want to know from the city attorney if there's some wiggle room on that. At 1 hour and 8 minutes, Nick Ritchie said, educate yourself on Prop 47, Proposition 57, Assembly Bill 109, and Martin versus Boise, which was just handed down by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I think that's an excellent idea, and we should have a video on that. So at 1 hour and 9 minutes, what are your resources that are of most concern related to, basically, what are your mental health resources? And Chief said he takes his patients to Palomar, and they use a transport company, Palomar Hospital. But here's a follow-up for somebody. We just took to a vote that there's supposed to be some resources freed up to take care of our homeless, especially in regards to their mental illness and drug use. So where are we at in this? Someone needs to follow up, and maybe the City Hall needs to follow up and let us know where is this drug, where's this money, and how is it being used? At 1 minute, 10 seconds, Jeff says, I would challenge you guys to get the homeless population to be more like Del Mar, which has a 0% homeless population. Clearly, Del Mar is implementing something you are not. So what is it that you can leverage from their best practices? And Chief said, well, first of all, they are not at 0%. That's not accurate data. We do take reports. Maybe they don't. So I don't know. The way I took that was, wow, Chief, you just challenged Del Mar Chief. I don't know. I think a better answer, if I respectfully can offer this, would have been and maybe they can humbly take this advice, is they could have said, we will talk to other cities and other agencies that are doing a good job to see if there's anything we can leverage. So maybe they still can do that. It's hard to be on the spot like they were. Very, very hard. So 1 hour and 15 minutes. Is there funding for the family? Nobody seemed to know in the room. At 1 hour, 16 minutes, is there a list for where all the encampments are? Can you make this available so that we can make sure they aren't coming back there? And hallelujah, the chief said, great suggestion. We don't have one, and we will make one. Yeah, good job, whoever asked that. This is the only thing that came out of this meeting, really, other than just, it's helpful for the community to come together. 1 hour and 16 minutes, someone said, why aren't there more streetlights in Carlsbad? It's so dark. It's true. That's not in the police's purview. So whoever is interested in that, somebody should take an interest in this, or many people, hopefully, just ask City Hall and they'll at least direct you in the right place. 1 hour and 17 minutes. Someone wanted a clarification. Oh no, wait. Police just did a clarification and said we do have a homeless response 7 days a week. And I'm skipping some stuff. We're at 1 hour and 23 minutes looking for type of mapping, as the person was saying. I'm not sure what type of mapping she wants to see patterns. She said she doesn't get that you don't ask for identification. I have to agree. Also, I'm afraid to go to Vaughn's after dark, and he said he needs a reason to ask for an ID. And the example given was if there's a crime that was committed nearby and that homeless person matches the identification of the person that committed the crime, then they can ask. It seems way too extreme of an example. So anyway, and then in terms of Vaughn's, they said they'll go and sit in front of Vaughn's if you want them to. That doesn't seem like an appropriate response. It seems like we need some sort of preventive action for people at Vaughn's. I don't think we want our police to just stand there in front of Vaughn's. Anyway, 1 hour and 27 minutes. Is the ring product useful? So interesting. They said they can't endorse it, but they do have access to the video. I find that interesting and creepy. I'm just imagining. No, I don't even want to imagine. They can just watch your coming and going. I don't know if they can, apparently they can even listen to what's going on. I don't know, man. So 1 hour and 29 minutes. Someone says, hey, I call the police and the dispatcher gives me the 3rd degree. Is there something we should say? Because I don't feel supported when calling the dispatcher. And she says, just answer their questions. Recognize they have a difficult job. Call me if you don't feel you're supported. Okay, people, if you don't feel that you are supported or, respected, when you call the non-emergency line, especially, and respectfully talk to the dispatcher, then call your chief. But anyway, beyond that, the chief was just given some feedback, and I really believe he owes it to that person that reported that he owes it to talk to the dispatch, the whole team of dispatchers, who do have a very, 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 very tough job. I can't even imagine doing my job. And and get that fixed. So that's it. Anyway, I hope you all stay involved and take on an issue and drive it to closure, and don't let go until you're satisfied. That's my report.